Hey there, it's Melody from Chasing Fi, and today I have another story about a seller who did not disclose something very important on their property disclosure form, and I just happened to stumble upon it by chance. So, this is why it's so important to really just do your research on your properties before you make an offer. This time we were looking at a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom home. It was a little over 12,000 square feet, and it is located in the Library Village area of Toledo. This is a good area for renters, but also for people who are looking for a low cost, nice brick home that it in an area where we're starting to see some appreciation. So this is some place that is really popular right now. Lots of the houses are just flying off the shelf when they get listed. So we actually have an offer in on another house in this area. It was accepted. So we just got through the inspection today and everything, and it's going really well. So we're excited about that. But the second one, we were thinking, okay, we will be in the same area with this. This is like a C to maybe C plus neighborhood. And based on the number of flippers in the area, I think it will eventually be a solid B neighborhood, maybe within the next like 4 years. And because it was so close to the other house that we're buying, we thought this could be, really good to have our houses in this vicinity. We talked with a property management company and they told us that this was a great place for stable renters. So we toured the house on Friday and it's been remodeled. So the remodel looks great. The plumbing was done. It's got new vinyl floors, fresh paint job. I mean, it looked really nice. But there were a few like just oddities that seemed to kind of stand out, seemed like they just didn't match with the remodel that we were looking at. For example, there was this weird moment where our real estate agent, he headed out the back door. He stepped on the back porch and it was like wobbly and it looked like someone had just thrown up, like a little bit of wood, like a plank of wood in front of two concrete steps. This looked very out of place because the inside of the house looked really good. There were also a few other things that kind of stood out. There was a piece of vinyl siding on the front of the house that was just falling off. And it looked so out of place because the vinyl had been freshly painted, maybe replaced even. So why not make sure that none of it was falling off? Like it was just really strange. The basement was also pretty dirty. Like there was debris on the steps. I don't know what it was, but they are still working on the house. So, of course, since, they're still in progress, we were fine with that, just, so long as they cleaned up before closing. So, we had this house that looked really good, like it has the neutral tones. The ones that are popular now, like those soft grays that they just have this warm, homey feel to them. It really looks fantastic. And so we decided to make an offer. The offer was $80,000. We went to $80,000 because the house had been on the market for 160 plus days and the asking price was $93,000. Originally, the house was listed for 110 back on August 16th, 2021. Then it was dropped on October 6th to 104,000. And finally on January 6th it was dropped to 93. But since we're financing, we want the house to appraise, and the houses in the area are not necessarily going that high for the most part. There are a few, but we were thinking 80, we're definitely safe. So our agent, he wrote the deal, we signed it, and we sent it off. We knew the owner would counter, so we immediately started looking at houses in the area, to come up with a list of comps to see like what have people been paying for these houses. Well, the house next door, it sold back in December 2020, but it sold for $99,000. So we decided, let's take a look and see if it's pretty comparable to the house that we're making the offer on. Well, when we got to the end of the pictures of this house, which it was very nice. It was probably a little bit nicer than the one that we were putting the offer in on. We found this. Now, this is interesting because if I was selling a house, I probably would have cropped this out, but they didn't. They weren't really paying attention to that. They were taking pictures of their house that they were selling, and they didn't really care that, this house next door had had a fire. But since that's the house that we were making the offer on, it was really great that that picture was there because there's no way we would have known about this fire. The reason we wouldn't have known about it is because the owner stated on the property disclosure list that she had no knowledge of smoke or fire damage at the house. So of course, after this picture, I'm like, this has got to be wrong, right? Like you wouldn't just not disclose that there was a fire at the house, right? Well, I started digging into the details. I checked on Google Street View and the house was fine in 2019. It just was a different color, but it was fine. The house next door sold in December 2020, but it was first listed in October 2020. So that means that the fire took place before October. I went through the property disclosure list again and noticed that the owner claimed to have moved out in July 2020. Now, this was something that I didn't notice on the first pass. And this is curious because we are in January 2022 and the house was empty when we toured it. So why would someone move out of their house and leave it empty for 20 months? Well, a fire could definitely take 20 months or longer to sort out. This also may be the reason why the house was put on sale back in August and hasn't sold. There's a chance that maybe this seller got some people that she knew to work on the house, or I don't know, but there's a chance that that was a problem, or maybe they couldn't turn the utilities back on because there was work being done and there had been a fire. I don't know if anybody has been in there to check it over, but it would kind of make sense that you couldn't get certain things done until all the fire damage was taken care of, or at least covered up. So, okay, there was a fire and it wasn't disclosed. Now, we're realistic. We know this house was built in 1923. So there's a chance that, like, if there was a fire and you went through the proper steps to get it fixed, it could even be in better shape than it would have been before the fire. So this doesn't automatically mark the house off our list. We just tell our real estate agent, we say, okay, so here's what we'd like. We just like some documentation about the fire. We want to know what happened and, like what inspectors have been in and what permits were obtained to repair the house. Well, the seller came back and said that she had absolutely zero documentation, like nothing, which doesn't make any sense because, did you make an insurance claim? Did you have a building inspector check things out? Someone gave you some type of documentation if you sought out a professional renovation of a fire-damaged property. So since the seller was not forthcoming, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to see what I can see. I looked up information about the fire. Well, I looked for information about the fire in the Toledo Blade because I know when I was living in Ypsilanti, sometimes I'd read it because I would go down to Toledo and work every now and then, and they had like a little blotter section where they kind of list some of the crimes that have been reported. So I thought, well, if it's a crime, maybe I can find it there. Well, I didn't find anything about the fire, but I did find information about a burglary that the owner reported at the house on July 3rd, 2020. So the owner filed a police report saying that electronics and other items had been stolen from her home. I can't be sure when the fire took place, but the seller claimed to have moved from the house in July 2020. Is that a coincidence? Well, maybe, but the failure to disclose the fire and zero documentation leads me to believe that the burglary and the fire may be related. Perhaps it was just a coincidence that the next door neighbor put their home up for sale in October of the same year, but there's also a possibility that all of these things are related. So we decided to let the deal go. Also, the seller, when we offered $80, I believe that this is before She knew that we knew about the fire. She just flat out turned it down. So then the counter offer was she wouldn't take anything less than 87,000. So initially we were going to say, "Hey, you provide us with documentation that shows that the fire was actually like the damage was taken care of properly, and we'll go with that." Because originally we were going to, stop the bidding off, cut it off at 90,000. But then after we found out about the fire, and then this person is saying they don't have any documentation for anything, and we started digging down the rabbit hole, and we see that she had reported a burglary and all this stuff. We were like, you know what? There are other houses. And the fact that the seller lied on the disclosure form, it just made us think like, well, there could be more to this story. So we can't really trust her. So I'm glad that we let that go. On the bright side, we had an inspection on another 3-bedroom, 1-bath in the neighborhood that we are buying. And the place, it needs a new furnace and a bit of electrical work. But overall, the house is in good shape. So that makes us really happy. The next step is the appraisal. Fingers crossed that it goes well. And hopefully we can get this one closed out by mid-February. The takeaway from the fire situation is that we wouldn't have blinked an eye if the seller had been honest and presented us with documents proving that the house had been properly renovated to prevent long-lasting effects from the fire. Honesty really is the best policy when you're selling a house. I don't expect any house to be perfect, but when a seller lies about their property, it causes my mind to wonder. What else are they hiding? Just be honest, friends. It really is the best way to go. You could run into all kinds of legal trouble if you lie on the disclosure as well, and the buyer can prove that you lied. So it is just best to tell the truth. And as far as being a seller, I guess that I've gotten to the point where if something turns up and I realize that the seller lied about it on the property disclosure, we're just going to walk away from the deal because we don't need to go into a deal with someone that we absolutely do not trust. Someone that we know is just doling out general deception. Like, we don't need to deal with anyone like that. And this is a seller's market, big time, but there are some deals out there, and there's always another house. So we won't be dealing with anyone. If we find out something about the property and you just lied about it, no, we're not dealing anymore. We're just going to go. So that's all for now. And I will see you in the next one. And that's when I will give an update on the other house that we're super excited about. We also have another one lined up. Our goal is to try to get 2 under our belts relatively fast here by March, because we know that interest rates are probably going to go up even more. We have everything calculated, all our numbers at a 5% interest rate, just, worst case scenario. But we want to get 2 houses under our belts before March. And the way it's going, I think we'll be able to achieve that. So, all right, I'll see you in the next one.